everyone, and welcome to Sunup. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin today with important information for producers who may have lost livestock or suffered property damage during Oklahoma's recent winter storms. Here's our Extension Ag Policy Specialist, Dr. Amy Hagerman, to get us up to speed.
Yeah, this severe weather has definitely caused some losses here in Oklahoma, and there are multiple programs to help producers for different aspects of their losses. I think our livestock producers, obviously, we need to talk about first. Lots of baby calves, other kinds of young stock on the ground, some potential losses that happen there. So the first program is the Livestock Indemnity Program. This is going to pay for animals that are in excess of normal mortality. And there's a lot of rules around that. They can talk to their local FSA office about exactly how to document in excess of normal mortality. But an important thing to remember is that notice of loss has to occur within 30 days. So don't wait on that. Go ahead and get your notice of loss into your FSA office. Another thing for livestock producers would be any losses in hay, forage, feed, and that's going to be in what we call the ELAP program. Again, that notice of loss, it's a shorter window for that notice of loss. That's only 15 days from when the event happened. And again, just contacting your FSA for documentation. For crop producers, generally we're leaning heavily on crop insurance or that non-insured agricultural disaster program, NAP, that you get through your FSA office. So again, as soon as you have those losses and you feel like you're going to be submitting losses, submit that notice of loss to either your crop insurance agency for your crop insurance or for the FSA office for the NAP program. The most important thing here is to open that conversation with USDA and with your crop insurance agent right away. Make sure you understand what they're looking for in terms of documentation for your specific operation and that you're getting that together. But they're going to have the most up-to-date information on what the rates are for payments, what is required, what the deadlines are, and so open that conversation quickly.
Dr. Kim Anderson, our crop marketing specialist, joins us now. Kim, I understand there's a new buzzword around the markets. What is it?
Food security.
And what does food security have to do with wheat prices?
Well, you ever wonder how the world could have record production, have record-ending stocks? That means the supply increased and prices increased about $2 per bushel. And what you see is food security. Countries have decided they need more food in storage, voila, wheat in this case. So we've seen the importers buy more wheat, we've seen demand increase dramatically, and it has reduced the supplier's supply, and therefore prices have gone up. And that's called food security.
The USDA released estimates for the 21-22 wheat marketing year. What's the overall take-home message?
I think the take-home message is higher prices are here for a while. You look at wheat production for the 2021 marketing year for the United States, 1.83 billion bushels, just about the same as last year. You look at any stocks, they're projected to decline to about 700 million bushels, down from 836 million bushels, so that's good news. And they're projecting that the seasonal or the annual average price for the 21-22 marketing year to be $5.50 a bushel compared to $5 per bushel this last year.
What about in terms of the world situation for that same time period?
Well, if you look at the news that's coming in right now, India will start their 2021 harvest next week. They're projected to have a record harvest, and the news behind that is that they may export some wheat. And then you've got Russia reported last week that their crop may only be 2.7 billion bushels this year. That's compared to 3.1 last year, so less wheat coming out of the Black Sea area. And Ukraine's wheat supply, or their stocks, are about 16% below last year. Nearly all of those factors are good for prices.
Last but not least, what are the implications for those 21-22 trends you mentioned?
Well, I think the implications are higher prices. Right now you can forward contract wheat for harvest delivery about $6.30 a bushel. Now, if the seasonal average or the average annual price is going to be $5.50, that means we'll probably have the highest prices during the June through August time period. Because if prices stay high, and most market analysts think they will stay above $5.50, that means later in the marketing year we got to have prices below $5.50, so we'll average that $5.50. So we got to have either a higher average annual price, that's good news, or prices have to be high at harvest, and that's a good time to sell Oklahoma wheat.
Great advice as always, Kim. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.
Hello, Wes Lee with the Mesonet Weather Report. March is usually the time of year livestock producers must make a decision on whether to pull cattle off of wheat or continue to graze out. If grain production is desired, the most economical time to remove grazing animals would be when the plant reaches what is referred to as first hollow stem. First hollow stem is when the grain head moves up from the crown level and there is about 3/4 of an inch of hollow stem below it. First hollow stem can vary over several weeks depending on variety, management, and growing conditions. Mesonet has a tool to assist producers on when to start looking for first hollow stems based upon soil heat units. We recommend actual scouting when it reaches 5%. This map is the first hollow stem estimation for early varieties. When the colors on the map reach the red levels, 50% first hollow stem is likely. On the 23rd, about the southern third of the state had reached this level. There is also a map for middle and late varieties. A sampling of varieties is listed below each map on the Mesonet webpage. There is also a projection map for 1 or 2 weeks in the future. These are based on Mesonet long-term averages and not the actual weather forecast. Now here's Gary with the latest drought figures.
Thanks, Wes, and good morning, everyone. Well, what a couple of weeks that was, right? We did get that incredibly cold weather that moved in. We got a lot of snow, and hopefully that helped the Drought Monitor Map. Let's take a look and see what happened. Well, we did get changes on the map this week, but unfortunately they were bad. We now have moderate drought starting to come into south central and southeastern Oklahoma. Remember last week we did talk about that area was a place we're going to have to start watching, and unfortunately the snows that came just weren't enough down in that area, so we do have a new area of moderate drought in south central and southeast Oklahoma. And again, that area is going to be in danger for more development if we don't get more moisture soon. When we look at the last 30 days, what exactly did that snowfall do for us? Well, we had those storms at the end of January that did give us some rain up in north central and northeastern Oklahoma, but I'm afraid the snow didn't amount to much liquid-wise when it finally melted. In most cases it was less than an inch, and in some cases it was less than a half inch. So we see across the Mesonet total map for the last 30 days, not too great. Let's take a look at the March through May outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center. We do see increased odds of above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation across the entire state, but especially across western Oklahoma. So not good news for drought, certainly. And that is portrayed in the drought outlook. This is good through May 31st. We do see from the Climate Prediction Center drought developing, at least likely developing across the basically the western half of the state where it doesn't already exist by the end of May. So certainly not good news there. But it's a long way to go through spring, and we have a lot of time to get rid of drought and hopefully keep drought away. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Well, more and more information is coming out on how the winter storm impacted cattle markets. So, Derrell, let's start with cattle producers. How were cattle producers affected?
Well, I think the brunt of this storm impacts probably fall on individual producers and their operations. Obviously, they put in a lot of time and effort to, provide extra feed and water access for cattle. But there's an actual direct cost, additional supplemental feed required in many cases, and particularly for those cow-calf producers that were already into calving season, a lot of extra challenges here to protect those newborn calves in this kind of weather and make sure they get dried off and up and going in the midst of this kind of unprecedented cold weather.
So, shifting to the markets, how did the markets react to that?
Well, in terms of local auctions, there were a number of closures just because of the weather impacts. So that really changes the timing of what would have normally flowed through those markets. And that could be important here for a couple of 3 weeks because we're getting close to the time when we're normally starting to pull cattle off of wheat pasture with a little bit of seasonal increase anyway. So we may see some, kind of ripple effects here for a few weeks till we get kind of the flows of feeder cattle back a little bit more normal.
So in regards to like feedlots and packing plants, were there any interruptions there as well?
Cold weather events always impact feedlots in terms of cattle performance. Cattle don't gain weight for a period of time in there, or actually may lose weight. It was made worse in this particular case because there were disruptions in power and natural gas and water in some cases where feedlots didn't have the ability to run their feed mills, or they had to change rations and formulate feed in a different way. Any kind of change like that on top of the weather events causes additional stress on those cattle. And so we'll see some lost performance there, some extra cost obviously for those producers. Packing plants were also impacted by the power disruptions and energy disruptions through this storm. So in some cases they had reduced shifts or had to cancel a couple of shifts. They had issues in some cases because of the snow with workers being able to actually get to the plants. So there were some limited disruptions across a number of different plants, particularly in the Southern Plains.
Will any of those residual effects affect consumers at all?
I really don't think we'll see much impact that we can detect at the consumer level in terms of higher retail prices for beef. There may be some wholesale market impacts, although we've had very strong wholesale demand in any event, and so I think it'll even be hard to detect there. Again, this industry, even with those limited disruptions, now there could be some very localized disruptions that are a little more pronounced, but they're very, very minimal and very localized. I think in the broader market, we probably won't be able to detect much impact on the consumer level.
And now we just got to hope Mother Nature doesn't throw any more curveballs at us.
That's right. We've had enough for a while.
All right. Thanks, Derrell. Dr. Derrell Peel, Livestock Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Drastic changes in the weather or other issues with calving can cause big challenges for producers trying to care for their livestock. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a way to plan or practice for those situations? Turns out there is. Here's Sunup's Curtis Hare with more.
Now grab your chain and try to do the half hitch. There it is.
Before
now,
wrapping up the annual Central Oklahoma Cattle Conference in Payne County, there's one last presentation that requires some hands-on participation from attendees.
Whoa! It just broke its neck. You did a good job. This is our Hereford Dystocia simulator. It's a fairly close to a life-sized cow, and basically what we can do is use this model to simulate difficult births. That's what we're doing, and people can practice, learn how to pull a calf. That's what this is all about. I don't know who does that, and I'm sure somebody does. I've heard that my whole life, but I never attempted to turn a calf from backwards up to front. We can make it as simple or as difficult as we want as far as the presentation of the animal. Do we have it in normal what we would consider anterior presentation, which means the calf is coming frontwards, not backwards. The position of the calf is right side up, not upside down. And then the posture, normal would be both front feet with the head in the pelvic canal, which is a normal birth, and people can feel that, stick their hand in here, feel around. They learn that that's what a normal birth is. Plus they can come up and view it and see how that calf is sitting, how it would sit internally in a live situation. So that head coming out, and we're kind of prolapsing her. I probably didn't put enough. There's certain ways you want to put those chains on so you don't break a leg. There's certain ways if you've got a leg backwards, you know, something like that, how we need to manipulate that leg to get it pulled up into the pelvic canal so that we don't damage the uterus or some other structure in there. So we can simulate those things, and people can benefit, see that. They can actually watch us and see how we manipulate it and actually practice if they want to.
It is helpful to get the chance to roll up some sleeves and see what pulling a calf is like. Having Dr. Whitworth, a veterinarian, guide them through the simulation and answer questions solidifies the experience.
The longer we wait, the more likely we are to have issues with the calf. Being able to see how that calf is setting in there, that's something new to them, because we don't have a window here to look in to see what things are going on internally. So it's nice to be able for them to come up and look and see.
Payne County Extension Director Nathan Anderson says the birthing simulation is just a small part of the main theme for this year's conference: cattle reproduction.
Reproduction efficiency, that's including health genetics, forage-based diets, reducing cost for producers. So anything that is of benefit to the producer for their beef operation.
Today's conference isn't a one-time only show for the simulator. Dr. Whitworth plans to do many more demonstrations across the state.
That's what Extension is all about. I mean, we're taking what the research and taking it to the public, and hopefully teaching them something that they can use on their operation.
In Payne County, I'm Curtis Hare.
With all the winter weather we've had the last couple of weeks, it's hard to think about the upcoming spring breeding season for beef cows and heifers here in Oklahoma, but quite frankly, it's really not that far away. And so it's time to really begin to think about, especially for those herds that are going to do artificial insemination, that they begin to consider what estrous synchronization program they're going to use to synchronize those heifers or cows before they go into that AI season. Many of these synchronization programs require quite a few days to actually take place, and so that's why we need to be thinking ahead of time as to which program we're going to use, get the products that we need. In some cases, we may need to mix a feed with a feed additive in it that's going to have to be fed at least about a month ahead of the synchronization and the AI. There's some help available for producers to sort through all of this information about estrous synchronization. The Beef Production Task Force, it's a group of scientists from around the country that study estrous synchronization and look each year at what fits best for different situations. They have some sheets put together specifically to give you different examples, different protocols for estrous synchronization. As we conclude today's Cow-Calf Corner, I want to explain that we've got some changes coming. This will be my last presentation on Cow-Calf Corner here on Sunup. But not to worry, the Cow-Calf Corner will continue in the future as we have an excellent replacement. It's a newer face with a newer mind, and he's got great new ideas. Dr. Mark Johnson from the Animal Science Department here at Oklahoma State University will be taking over this role, and I think you'll really enjoy hearing from him. I want to say thank you to the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources here at Oklahoma State University. Certainly the Animal Science Department that I've worked for well over 40 years now, and the Sunup crew. So many of the different folks that have worked with me, that have filmed me and worked and edited these Cow-Calf Corners for these many years. And finally, and not least, the cattle people of the great state of Oklahoma. You've been so gracious to me. You've presented a lot of different ideas. You've taught me more than I've probably taught you. So I want to say thank you. I think you're the greatest people on the face of the earth, and I wish you the best, not only in 2021, but for years and years to come. Well, as we transition to this new Cow-Calf Corner here on Sunup, I thought it'd be a great opportunity for you folks to meet Dr. Mark Johnson, who will be taking my spot here on the Cow-Calf Corner. Mark, give us a little bit of your background, your history, so the folks get to know you.
Glenn, I grew up in Southwest Missouri, graduated high school in 1982, and had the good fortune to come to Oklahoma and get a degree at Oklahoma State University. Continued and got a master's degree here, went to Kansas State for a PhD, and I've been back here on faculty in our animal science department since 1992.
Well, can you give us just a brief idea of what are some of the classes that you're teaching here right now?
Glenn, I am currently teaching our animal breeding course. I teach our cow-calf management course and our purebred seed stock and sales management course.
So folks, I think you can see that Mark's going to bring a wide perspective from the beef industry, especially the cow-calf side, and I'm sure that you're going to learn a lot of great ideas on the cow-calf corner in the future. So for one last time, I'm going to say, hey, I hope that you'll tune in again next week on Sunup's Cow-Calf Corner.
Thank you, gentlemen. We want to say a big welcome to Mark and, of course, a big thank you to Glenn for your contributions to our show over the years and, of course, the impact that you've made on Oklahoma.
I wanted to say thanks to Glenn Selk for his years of service to Extension. He's been a great translator of research, benefiting producers, beginning and more established, the industry personnel, veterinarians, and our Extension educators through his work. He had a way of relating things that made it personal and engaged people well. We have no idea how many miles he's traveled or how many hours he's put in, but we know it's a lot. His contributions to both Sunup and to Cow-Calf Corner have been tremendous and had a great impact on our state's beef industry. So thank you, Glenn, for all you've done.
Well, this really is the end of an era. I have really enjoyed following Dr. Selk for the 7 years that I've been here at OSU. And I have to say, I've learned a lot, but I've also really enjoyed watching the professional that he is. He certainly knows his stuff, and he keeps up to date on the research that's going on. He's always got the right information at the right time for that season to help us understand what's going on with the cow, with the calf, with the bull, and really make sure that people have access to information that they can put to work. So thank you, Dr. Selk. You're a great man, a great professional, and a dear friend to many people in Oklahoma.
We're joined now by Dr. Chris Heine, our Extension equine specialist. Chris, we understand the horse owners workshops are kicking off or are about to for the spring. Let's talk about that today.
Yeah, so we're doing it virtually this year on Thursday nights. So every Thursday in March, we'll have 2 seminars. And generally, they're devoted towards either adult leaders of youth, general horse owners, and just some more advanced veterinary topics.
Let's talk about some of the topics you plan to cover this time around.
So we're going to have a special on equine eye injuries, equine allergies, information every horse owner needs as far as year-round veterinary care. And then we have several seminars that are about helping our youth learn about horses and some youth development pieces.
And who are these workshops designed for? Who do you want to tune in to learn more?
Yeah, so we really designed them to have different levels of education. So they're applicable for owners that are just getting started, that need a basic background, to some of the topics are more advanced or digging a little deeper, so to speak. And then again, anybody that interacts with youth or teen leaders, 4-H educators, etc., they're all appropriate for those guys.
You mentioned youth. There's another layer to that 4-H component this year. Talk about that and how that piece got going.
Yeah, we're really excited. This year we're going to start out having equestrians with disabilities section in 4-H. So that's the first year we'll be offering that. And so really fortunate, many of the members of PATH International, Region 8, are actually doing a seminar for us, essentially teaching riding for riders of all abilities.
you do want people to register in advance for these, right?
Yeah, so we actually are charging a registration fee of $10 for all 8 seminars, but that actually all the proceeds I'm going to use to support our Equestrians with Disabilities program. If they are interested in signing up, you can just go to osuhorse.com and look for Horse Owners Workshop, follow the link, and register online.
Thanks a lot, Chris. And for a link to the registration site, just go to sunup.okstate.edu.
Today I thought I'd share a little bit of information about peanut butter. Peanuts, whole and ground, were eaten by the Aztec and the Incas. However, what we would consider to be modern peanut butter can be traced back to Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, who also had a hand in creating ready-to-eat breakfast cereal. In 1895, he was issued a patent for a process of producing alimentary products that involved boiling peanuts and then grinding them into a paste that could be served to his patients. The peanuts provided protein, while the boiling and grinding allowed them to be eaten with minimal chewing. In 1898, Joseph Lambert invented a machine for large-scale roasting and grinding of peanuts. When manufacturers originally sold peanut butter to local grocery stores in the early 1900s, they provided the product in tubs and instructed the grocers to regularly stir the peanut butter to prevent the oil from separating out and going rancid. However, in 1921, Joseph Rosefield patented a process called partial hydrogenation that would transform the oil and peanut butter to a solid or semi-solid at room temperature, which kept it from separating. This made the product more stable, and it could be now stored in warehouses and shipped to grocery stores across the United States. So the next time you're enjoying a peanut butter sandwich, remember the names Kellogg, Rosefield, and Lambert. For more information, please visit sunup.okstate.edu or food.okstate.edu.
That does it for our show this week. I'm Lyndall Stout, and we'll see you next time at Sunup.